Hi everyone, it's me. I'm back. And it's a quick summary of the month of June, on which I think I read like 9 books. Let me check. Whoops, looks like I read 10 books. And what are those books? Let's get to it. All right. I'm gonna try and go along my Goodreads list, talking about my ratings and giving a little tidbit of what I think about each book and why you should read it if you want to. Also, the AC's on because it's hella hot. It's like 90 degrees, and I'm not sitting in a hot room for books. Recapping. So, okay, so the first book I finished in the month of June was Mexican Gothic. I had this on my to be read for a while, but I only got around to finishing it in June. It ended up being a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I think I was really excited for it because, ooh, like Mexico, Gothic horror, that type of setting. But then it ended up being really creepy. And it reminded me of this game I watched the cutscene for. Some Call of Cthulhu, I think, maybe, or something. It had very much that vibe as I was reading. I ended up giving that 4 stars. The next book I finished in the month of June was Northeast Medicinal Plants. Identify, harvest, and use of 111 wild plants for health and wellness. So, medicinal plants, fantastic. I'm there. Sign me up. I'm ready to read. I read the counterpart to this, which I think was a Southeast Medicinal Plants. Um, and I think I gave that one 4 stars, but this one, Northeast edition, I gave 5 stars. Not only because it's Northeast, but also I felt like it was, different authors. It's like the same from the same type of series, if you will. I feel like the Southwest one was more into like, working within the tenets of Western herbalism, and this one was more like, okay, yes, Western herbalism, but also let's acknowledge and respect other traditional forms of practice. So I appreciated that. This one was more like, I don't want to say evidence science based, but it just read better to me. Um, so this one I gave 5 stars. The next one I finished in the month of June was a graphic novel adaptation of Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five. And as I am trying to recall, I don't actually recall what. Oh no, it was solid. It was a nice retelling of a solid retelling of you know this war story and the horrors of war, and then a little bit of sci-fi. So this one I ended up giving 4 stars. The next book I finished in the month of June was The Eclipse by Dara Kent. And how to say, this was, I don't know, I enjoyed it, I guess, but it was like pretty obvious, but it wasn't like something wow, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, terrible. So I gave this 3 stars. The next book I finished, and that was book 4. No, that is book 4. The fifth book I finished in the month of June, Donald Trump and his assault on truth, the president's falsehoods, misleading claims, and flat out lies. And it's from the Washington Post fact checker staff. So it's a nice recap of what the fact checker staff does in terms of Donald Trump and how that his presidency, his time in office, has accelerated their work and increased the level of or the degree of their work, or I don't know what you want to call it. And just generally how fact checking in the time of social media has had an effect on holding a kind of politicians to account. It was really interesting. A lot of these lies I'm not surprised at. Donald Trump, who would be surprised? Look at the mess we're in. Um, but it was like, I don't know. I enjoyed it, and if generally speaking, if you are thinking more about why I gave things what I gave, I will have articles linked in the description for this video. So the next book I read was So You Had to Build a Time Machine by Jason Offutt, and I think when I first saw this on NetGalley, I think it was on NetGalley that I saw this and it had like a lower rating, and I was like, oh no, like it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna give it like a it's gonna be totally fine. I'll give it probably, I see low ratings and I'm like, oh no, like I'm rooting for a high rating, and sometimes it happens that books that other people give low ratings I genuinely think are fantastic, and it's just like, I don't know what they're talking about, this book's great, but sometimes I agree with them. This was one of those cases. It was like trying to do the whole multiple, whole out of sync timeline, uh determined timeline thing, and it just didn't work for me. I gave this 2 stars. Parts of it were like, haha, funny, I like the characters, but generally it was like, what is happening? I don't care for the plot line that much, so I gave this 2 stars. The next book I finished in the month of June was DKs Composers, Their Lives and Works. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I have the DK opera book. I've had it for a while, and that one is a thicker tome. Uh, the flow of the book made sense. It was just also like, why did you choose these composers? So obviously there's a slant. It's not like an all encompassing, oh, composers, and even the modern day people they included, it's like all super encompassing. But I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. A lot of these composers who, in my mind are great, musicians, and maybe that's objectively true, whatever. Then it's just like, oh, you were personally a trash person? Wow, you're a trash person. So that was fun and interesting to learn. Um, so I gave this 4 stars. Yes. The next book I finished in the month of June was the first in a trilogy, from M.R. Carey, and I think it's the same author who wrote The Girl with All the Gifts or something that was made into a movie. I don't know the name of that book because I didn't see that movie. Um, the Book of Coley. I am interested. Some things were a bit ham-fisted at times. Um, and sometimes the language felt inconsistent. Like, it's okay, like you're going back in this or forward to this new form of English, but then you're also and certain words are cut off, but then longer, bigger words are still used. It didn't make sense sometimes. Um, but I'm interested to see where the story goes. I feel like it's telegraphing easy at this point. Um, but I guess we'll see. I do have the second book in my neck. I was prepared for the second book. I think the third book doesn't come out until next year. So, but that book came out in April anyway. This second book is coming out in September. So I gave that one 4 stars. I'm enjoying it, but it's not blowing my mind. And then the next book, not the final, the next book I finished in the month of June was Who Gives a Poop by Heather L. Montgomery. And I gave this one 5 stars. I think maybe I was leaning towards 4 initial middle part, but by the end it was just like, this is a great book, this is a solid book. A lot of stuff I didn't know about poop. And I mean, the main thing was, I think I was reading this initially thinking it was children's fiction. I think it's middle grade fiction. Or not, not fiction. I think I was reading this thinking it was children's nonfiction. And it was middle grade. So initially I was like, are elementary school children and younger going to like understand this language across the board? Middle school, I think you can say, okay, they should be reading these type of books, challenging themselves if they're not understanding with these type of books. But there's just a lot of fun, interesting factoids. I enjoyed it. I think anyone would enjoy it. Yeah, so I gave that one 5 stars. And then the final book I finished in the month of June was Houseplant Party by Lisa Eldridge Steinkampf. I gave this 3 stars because, yes, the selection of houseplants highlighted in the book were broader than what you usually get from a houseplant specific book, but all in all, it kind of read just like a book on a couple of DIY projects, like 15 of them, and the majority of those were not like super challenging to do. They're just variations on a box. So I gave it 3 stars. It's not the worst. It's not the best. I wouldn't buy it, but I enjoyed lots of parts of what I read. Some parts made me go, "Oh, that's interesting." Oh, so I gave that one 3 stars. So that's it for the month of June. I read 10 books. I think right now, currently as it stands, on Goodreads, I'm at 81 or 82 of my 100 book goal. I think I had meant to finish, not meant to, I had wanted to try and finish 100 books read via per Goodreads from January to end of June. 100 books. I wanted to finish my 100 book year goal by in 6 months. I didn't accomplish that. I did, however, hit 100 books read on NetGalley in the end in June. So that was fun. My rating ratio was up, and I don't know how. There's a book I have right now that in actuality is one book, but NetGalley is provided, I suppose, as 2 books. So I'll have to. I don't know. Well, we'll see. That's not going to count on Goodreads anyway because I'm not going to finish the book. I'll just have it half read, assuming I get the second half. It's a radio pharmacy book. But yeah, it's fun. I'm enjoying that guy a lot. I'm reading a lot more, I think, than I would be otherwise. Otherwise, it's just every now and then when I feel like reading a series or getting into it for the memes and the culture knowledge. But I read 10 books. Earlier this year I was reading 18 a month, sometimes 19. So I'm back in my second half. I think right now I have about 29 books between my currently reading and start reading. But my start reading at the moment goes all the way to February of 2021. So I want to knock out a few this week, maybe 2 or 3. Definitely can do it, and I want to finish that radio pharmacy book as soon as possible. So anyway, thanks for watching, and bye. I hope you enjoyed the AC.